Welcome to the debut episode of the No Filter Friday podcast. I am John Kanopic. Decided to go in a little bit of a different direction compared to what we were doing previously with the smorgasbord, where I was just literally just doing a bunch of talking about different political topics and things going on in the world and stuff like that, and giving facts and and some theories and opinions as well. But I felt like that was really not the avenue I wanted to go down, or continue to go down, I should say. I did appreciate all of the support and all the feedback that you guys provided, and the subscribers and everybody listening and tuning in. It's been immensely appreciated. But I felt like we needed to go back and look at things from a different perspective. And the way for me to do that is to just start having conversations. Just start being myself, not looking too much at specific topics necessarily. Things that will come up, of course, from week to week that I'll want to talk about. But in this case, right now, it's primarily just looking at this from a perspective of we got to do this completely off the cuff. We got to do this, as it says in the tagline, unscripted, unfiltered, unburdened, unbothered, unapologetic. There's going to be opinions that people aren't going to resonate with. There are going to be opinions that people will completely be on board with. And that's okay. Because this whole thing is just about conversations, getting everybody talking, getting everybody, looking at things from fresh eyes and fresh perspectives, so to speak, and just trying to get narratives drawn up. Be it either, topics related to professional wrestling, which I've been a lifelong fan since I was 5 years old, so 40 plus years, to political events going on around the world. There's no bones about my opinions on the previous administration as well as the current administration. And again, this will divide people, especially nowadays with the current political landscape, but it is what it is. To mental health issues that are going on in the country, to, conspiracy theories, things that I truly believe and think could be the case. Because, unfortunately, as much as people want to believe that the government would never lie to us and that they're completely on the level and everything's done by the book, those of us who have been around long enough and have seen the way the world has progressed and things that the way things have gone and what it's turning into leads you to believe that, things aren't what they seem. And that, things aren't just, you can't take them at face value. You have to do your research. You have to do your digging. You have to look into the different areas and go down rabbit holes. Don't be afraid to pull back the covers and the layers of the proverbial onion to really get to the truth of what's going on in the world. Case in point, the situation with our current president, the 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. A lot of people don't want to buy into the fact that there was a conspiracy to keep him out of office. However, if you look at all of the facts and you look at the fact that, they tried to first discredit him, they tried to smear him, they tried to persecute him politically, they even tried to, eliminate him to a permanent compromise in both Butler, Pennsylvania, as well as on his golf course in Mar-a-Lago. They tried everything they could because they knew that him getting back into power would not be good for their nefariousness and their, for lack of a better term, their corruptness that they had been enjoying and living on and thriving in over the last 4 years because of the previous administration, which, if you think that Joseph R. Biden was the president and was in fully functioning control of this country, I have some beautiful, beautiful oceanfront property in Kansas that you would absolutely love. And I can strike you an awesome deal on it because that couldn't be further from the truth. It was something where the more you looked at how his cognitive decline, Biden's cognitive decline over the 4 years that he was in office, the more it was more and more apparent he was just the figurehead. He was just the puppet. He was not calling the shots. those people who were calling the shots behind the scenes were the ones with the most to gain and the most to hold on to from a power standpoint. That being Joe Biden, that being Kamala Harris, that being Barack Obama, that being even going into Congress people. There were so many that were pulling the strings and were wanting to do everything they could to keep him in power because they knew that if Trump got back into office, everything would start coming to light. And all of their doings and things they were doing behind the scenes were going to become mainstream. And it started to become that way. Because again, and this is going to be one of my opinions, and one of the many opinions that I have on this show. The United States is a business. It's a corporation and needs to be run by a businessman. That's the only way it's going to work. That's the only way we're going to thrive. It's the only way we're going to survive as a country, is to have someone in power with a business acumen, someone that's not easily corruptible, someone that's not just going to kowtow to the big pharma and those big billionaires behind the scenes, the guys who hold all of the power amongst many countries and not just here in the States. Someone that commands respect, someone that knows what, even though he may have had failed businesses in the past, the only way you're going to learn, the only way you're going to get better as a leader in not just business, but in anything that you do, the only way you're going to get better is by failures and learning from your failures and adapting from your failures. And that's exactly what he has done. And that's the reason why in 2016, the country was at such a low point where the everybody around here, the majority of the people around here were like, you know what, we need to change. And to quote Jack Nicholson from the original Batman, this town, or in this case, this country needs an enema. It needs a cleansing. And 2016 was that cleansing, because they knew if Hillary would have won the election, things would not have gotten better. Things would have gotten worse. And she would have maintained the corruption and the control and continued to spiral our country further and further into the doldrums, and allowed their special interests to maintain more and more control and continue to essentially turn us into slaves to whatever they wanted us to do. And Trump came along, and it started as a joke, and he wasn't anticipating the kind of ground swelling tsunami that he was going to get from the moment he announced his candidacy. And everybody laughed it off as a joke, like, oh, there's no way Trump will ever be president. And you see all of these video clips, you see tons and tons of them going, oh, he's not going to be president, he's not going to be our leader. And I can and probably will at some point, give you guys, I'll even tie in video clips to this with a highlight reel of all of these different politicians and leaders and things, and also celebrities who have absolutely no business anywhere near politics, saying in no uncertain terms, oh, Trump will never be our president. Like there was a Jimmy Kimmel, by the way, my opinion on him, waste of oxygen. But there was a Kimmel skit where they do those mean tweets. And there was one that Barack Obama was reading that Donald J. Trump tweeted to Barack, and Barack came back and looked right into the camera and said, oh, well, at least I can say I will go down as a president of the United States. Basically ha-haing and saying, oh, you're never going to get to the highest office in the land, or you're never going to be the leader of the free world. And 2016, look what happened. The country said, well, we're going to make it happen. We're tired of the bullshit. We're tired of being held down. We're tired of this country essentially being run by corrupt individuals who have no business treating us the way they treat us, or holding us down the way they're holding us down. We need to change. And thankfully, the Republican Party decided, you know what? He's our guy. And the moment he announced his candidacy and he went through all of the various Super Tuesday and all of those things, and he won all of those, they were like, okay, Trump's going to be the guy. Trump is going to be the figurehead of the Republican Party going forward in 2016. And they tried everything they could to smear him, to keep him out of office. They tried the Russia disinformation which we now have confirmed it's a hoax. And for those of us conspiracy theorists, we knew that from the get-go. And everybody told us to take out the tinfoil hats because, oh, Russia is going to meddle in the election, and that's all there is to it. And and basically we were mocked, and we were told that, when we said this is fake, this is all fake, this is all attempts to keep him out of office, we were laughed at, we were scoffed at. We were like, no, that's not the case. This is so true, and Putin and Trump are in cahoots and everything else. And now, 8 years later, and 9 years later, now that it's 2025, it's come to light that it was a hoax, that it was not legitimate. There wasn't a Russian attempt to steal the 2016 election. And then at the same time, they tried their hardest to tamper down the Hillary Clinton scandals, destroying hard drives with hammers, bleaching servers, and things like that, because they knew if what was on those drives and things came to light, she would be screwed 8 ways to Sunday. So not only were they trying to do this from a two-pronged attack, one, try to smear him and get him to basically drop out of the race or discredit him, failed. And two, get rid of everything nefarious and all of the bad press and everything that could be detrimental to her and her campaign, and erase it. Find ways to destroy it, and she'll be fine. And at the end of the day, thankfully, the American people had their say and made sure that her corruptness and the skeeziness and everything that they tried to put forward failed, which it did. And because of that, from 2016 to 2020, we were in a very prosperous state of affairs. There weren't wars going on. There may have been some conflicts, but nothing to the level of what we were dealing with from 2020 to 2024, pandemic notwithstanding. And my family and I, we moved to Southern California, and we were able to live comfortably on one salary in a one-bedroom apartment in the middle of SoCal for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. And then the pandemic happened, and unfortunately, the nefariousness of the left came back in full force, and they were actually able to steal the election. And again, conspiracy theorists were pointing out the fact that all of these mysterious votes were coming in at the last minute, and that, he had leads in at least 3 of the states by the time he got near midnight. And everybody was like, there's no way Sleepy Joe is going to be able to catch up. There's no way he's going to be able to overcome these leads that Trump has. And magically, all of these votes were found in the overnight hours, and they all just happened to be for Biden and the blue side. So conspiracy theorists were like, this smells so horribly bad, it's not even funny. And everybody again goes back to, no, this was by the books. And you're telling me that your savior, Barack Hussein Obama, the one who brought the blue brand into all of its illustrious glory for 8 years, from 2008 to 2016, that, Biden, this toddling old dude whose cognitive decline was already starting to show itself even before he got elected into office during the 2020 election race, you're going to tell me that him and Kamala Harris, a woman who got absolutely zero delegates, none, like after the Iowa primaries, she dropped out essentially because she had nothing. She was dead in the water. Nobody wanted anything to do with her. Nobody thought that she would ever amount. They're telling her, stay the hell out of politics from this perspective. You're never going to hold a high office. Go back to being the Attorney General of California, or go back to being, a senator, but you're never going to hold high office. And nobody wanted her. But you're going to tell me that magically Biden putting her on the ticket as his running mate, they were able to get more votes in one election than any candidate in the history of our country, including the savior Obama himself. You're going to tell me that all of these people magically just decided to vote for them when they clearly didn't want her in the first place. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And if you believe that, not only do I have some oceanfront property in Kansas that you would absolutely love, but I also have some dehydrated water, big supply, that I know you would just be over the moon for. And I'd be more than happy to give that to you. Just give me your mailing address. So they were able to steal the election in 2020. And again, all conspiracy theorists were pointing out the obvious glaring holes in their little plot and everything, all of the red flags and all of the different things that were showing why this did not smell right and why this was not by the books. And everybody again laughed it off, scoffed it off, said, no, this was totally on the level. And you just have to accept defeat and everything else. And again, now, 5 years later, as time has gone on, more information and facts have come to light to prove that it was, in fact, not by the books. And that there were states that had discrepancies, from Georgia to Michigan and other states like that. So we're 2 for 2 now in the conspiracy department when it comes to political elections. And we also want to tie in the fact that there was a lab created, and yes, it has also been confirmed, lab created pandemic in Wuhan, China, COVID-19, headed up by one of the most corrupt, skeeziest, most dangerous, I wouldn't even call him a scientist, maybe a doctor, if you want to call him a doctor, just because he has a PhD, in the history of the world. Dr. Anthony Fauci helped create the Wuhan COVID-19 virus. And because of the leak, it allowed it to spread throughout the world and cause the mass chaos that 2020 became. And by doing that, they felt like, if we could make this hit home hard enough, we could stop the elections from going through in their normal ways, and we could just have mail-in ballots, and we could have people voting after the fact, and then they could control the narrative, and that could allow them to do the mysterious ballot findings at the late night hours and things like that. And because of that, the election was stolen. At this point right now, Trump shouldn't be in office because he should have already served his 2 terms. However, thankfully, we had to endure a 4-year nightmare from 2020 to 2024 again. Pandemic notwithstanding, we went from being able to live comfortably in SoCal on one salary income to living paycheck to paycheck, living in Iowa and Alabama. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. But again, it was 4 years of hell and torture and everything that we had to deal with. And thankfully, Biden's cognitive decline became more and more center stage. And even though the blue tried their hardest to cover it up and said he was cogent and that he was as sharp as a tack, and behind the scenes, I'd never encountered someone who was so articulate and so demanding, and he was just so quick-witted and all this gunk that they tried to spew out. Unfortunately, because half the country right now, it's becoming less and less, but at the time, half of the country was still so blinded and asleep, they ate everything up with a spoon, and they took it as gospel, even though it was complete bullshit. And everybody knew it. And the magnitude just got greater and greater and greater over the 4 years, because as much as you want to try to hide cognitive decline with drugs and with teleprompters and with little note cards that says, you are the president, you walk into the Roosevelt room, you shake the hand, you do that. I mean, as much as they tried to coddle him and hold his hand and try to prop him up as being, he is the leader, he is the one making the decisions, he is the commander-in-chief, cognitive decline and the human body, as time went on, just continued to say, you ain't holding me down. I'm going to show you that this is not the case. My vessel is consistently getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually it's going to give out. And it got to the point where they started using what was called an auto pen, which is something that has been used by previous presidents and administrations before. However, in his case, a lot of the pardons and things that you saw signed at the very tail end of his administration were done via auto pen. And most likely, it has not been confirmed yet, but all of the signs are pointing to the fact that it was not him that was using that pen to sign those executive orders and pardons and things like that. Because essentially, they're going to be proven, if they are proven that they weren't his direct signatures, which those of us who are been paying attention know that it wasn't, that will essentially nullify and void all of those executive orders, including all of the pardons, the ones for Hunter Biden, the one for Anthony Fauci, the ones that were conveniently created to cover specific time frames, not just, well, here's a blanket pardon for anything you may do in the future. It's a pardon of everything that you may have done over the last 11 years or some very specific number. So if that's not glaring enough to tell you, hey, they're literally trying to basically insulate that entire time frame to protect them from potential persecution for all of their crimes, from the Wuhan COVID-19 virus to Hunter Biden and everything that was on that laptop and his crack and his all of the shady business dealings he did with Ukraine and stuff like that. It's stunk to high heaven for those 4 years. And we were in that nightmare. And it got to the point where they decided, we can't hide his cognitive decline anymore. We can't continue to prop him up. His body will not last another 4 years at the declining rate that it is going. So what did they do? They decided to create and draft a little letter saying that he was dropping out of the presidential race, and that rather than doing the Democratic thing and allowing them to have an emergency primary to allow the blue brand and all of the followers on the blue side to democratically select a new candidate to take Biden's place in the 2024 election, they just decided, and there are some technicalities in there that people have tried to refer to, saying, well, by the Constitution, they could do da. But technically, no. You're supposed to, if someone gets removed from a party's ticket, you're supposed to have an election, a delegate primary to select a new candidate. Rather than doing that, they circumvented that process and decided, well, we're just going to stick Kamala in. She's our horse now. We're going to back her. And as you've seen, after the election happened, they were very, 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 very unhappy with the results, because they expected the celebrities and all of the people that they spent billions, and a B, not millions, billions of dollars on to try and get them to pump up the crowds and get people behind her. And again, this is where I go back to what I was saying earlier about celebrities have no business in politics at all, period, full stop. And I refer to Ricky Gervais at one of the Golden Globes saying to the celebrities, you don't know fuck all about politics. Come up here, accept your little award, thank your God, and fuck off the stage. You have no business dictating politics or trying to preach how people should look at things politically. You have no standing there. And outside of the fact that we've had one true Hollywood actor to ever be president, and of course that was Ronald Reagan, and one true actor that was a couple actors actually that were governors. You had Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger of California, that state's fuck day ways to Sunday. And you've had Governor Jesse the Body Ventura, WWF fame, up in Minnesota. So again, they tried to insert celebrities to try to beef up the crowds and try to get people excited. They tried throwing in Beyonce. They tried throwing in Gaga. They tried throwing in Oprah. They tried throwing in all of these people who have no business in politics or even dealing with politics. And it wasn't that they did it under their own fruition. It wasn't that Oprah came to the Kamala campaign and said, "Hey, I'll do this for you guys. I'll do you guys a solid. I want to do this." It wasn't Beyonce saying, "Hey, I want to do this for you guys." No, they had to pay them. On the other side of the fence, and it's still a comparison, regardless if you think it is or not. You had Kid Rock, and he's still a big side piece of Trump and his buddies over there. You had Kid Rock, and you had, of course, Elon, he's a very polarizing figure. You have these celebrities that did it. They didn't get paid for it either. They did it because they wanted to. They did it because they were standing up for what was right for the country. They knew the crap hole we were in, and then we were spiraling further and further down. And then if Kamala and her cronies got into office and maintained the status quo of what the situation was and what the country was looking like, we were going to be screwed. So they decided, you know what? We're doing this because we love our country. We want to take our country back. We want to get things back to the way they were from 2016 to 2020. And the only way we can do that is by getting the right person back in office, and that's Donald Trump. And that's exactly what happened, because all of that money that the Blue brand blew on those celebrities, like, oh, look, we had a 30,000 person turnout or whatever the number was for the Beyonce rally in Houston. They were there to see a free Beyonce concert. That is why they were there. And she wasn't even on the stage more than 5 minutes before she left. And there is footage, there's videos out there, they're on social media, that when she left, before even Kamala even took the stage, people were leaving in droves, which just is a glaring reminder that you had no business associating yourself with a political party. And it proved it. It proved it at the very end, because look who's back in office now. And Queen Word Salad, as people have come in, as some people have come to call her, did herself no favors, because she essentially hid the way Biden hid in his basement during the 2020 election. She hid herself from social media and the public, and rarely did any kind of interviews at all during the 2024 campaign. And granted, everybody's like, well, she only had 100 days and she was thrust into the spotlight, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have 100 days or 1,000 days. Once you're in that position, you're on the clock, and you need to do everything you possibly can to show the world, not just the United States, but the world, why you are the best person and the best candidate to get our country back on track. She didn't do it. And here's the thing. I am not a hardcore Republican at all. I am an American. I'm a patriot. I'm a veteran. I am a person who wants what's best for our country, who wants our country to be back in a prosperous, safe, thriving environment, something we have not been in for a very long time. And had the Blue brand come up with a candidate that had that mindset and had that drive and had that vision and actually drew out a plan and brought people to the forefront that was going to help them push their agenda, and I felt like that was going to be, out of these two, that was the one that was going to be, I felt was going to give us the best chance to get our country back on track, I would have voted Blue. But you know what? What did they do? Who did Kamala bring forward from what team did she assemble of actual political figures that were going to help shape the agenda for the country had she have won the presidency? She brought nobody. Who did Trump bring? He brought RFK Jr. And again, these people, the Blue side was so butthurt about what happened, they tried to rip down every single person that Trump brought forward from the political side of things. From RFK Jr. to Tulsi Gabbard, to Kristi Noem, to, at the time, Vivek Ramaswamy, who obviously he's left the Trump administration because he's going to become the governor of Ohio. Elon, even though Elon's not political. You had Kash Patel, who is now the director of the FBI. Linda McMahon, who again is polarizing. She's the Department of, leading the Department of Education. You have Marco Rubio, now the Secretary of State, who was, did really good things down in Florida. You have all of these people that Trump brought forward and said, here, this is my vision for the country. This is what I think we need to do. This is how we're going to get things back on track. Here are the people that I'm bringing with me to get us there. And they produced their agenda. And they showed it. And they showed everybody why they were the best choice to lead the country back into its prosperity. And then at the top of the ticket with Trump, you had J.D. Vance, who again, initially didn't have good things to say about Trump at first, but then openly and honestly realized the error of his ways, made amends, saw the light, and now he is the vice president. Who did Kamala bring forward for her head of the ticket, her side by side? Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, an individual whose wife was such a wackadoo that during the George Floyd riots that were happening up in Minnesota, was commenting how she enjoyed the smell of the burning tires while people were setting vehicles on fire, so much so that she had the windows open at their house to let the smell in because it was very relaxing. And Tim, Mr. Walz, if you're nasty, who not only wanted to put tampon machines in boys' restrooms and locker rooms, but and thanks to SNL, I'm not always a huge fan of theirs, but they pointed this out where he admitted he was friends with school shooters. I will take things you should never say for 500, Alex, and that would be one of them. Because even if it was in jest or whatever way he tried to spin it, never admit that you're friends with school shooters, because that's going to be a bad look for you. And then if that wasn't bad enough for her campaign, her disastrous excuse of a campaign, to have them essentially call half of the country garbage. Because you had the guy, the Trump's political rally in Madison Square Garden, who made the joke, a bad joke, but it made a joke about Puerto Rico. And everybody was like, "Oh, that's gonna bury Trump. He's never gonna win now. He's just alienated himself, and all these Puerto Ricans and Hispanics and everybody, they're gonna rise up and they're gonna take Kamala all the way to the pay window." No, because they decided, hey, hold our beer, and went with the garbage comment saying, the only garbage we've seen are supporters of his. So essentially, you're calling half of the country garbage. It's a great idea, especially when you're already struggling in the polls. To essentially, that buried them badly. And so much so that the night of the election, they tried again when they saw that things were slipping away and they were losing all of the states that they felt they might have had a chance in. Like, they thought they had a chance in Florida and North Carolina and Georgia and Wisconsin and the blue wall of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Minnesota. They thought they had shots there. But once they started seeing that the numbers weren't coming in, the returns weren't coming back the way they were anticipating them to, and they were failing and things were going south faster and faster, and you could hear the cockpit going, pull up. What did they try to do? Again, you started seeing things late at night of, oh, look, there's these vans coming in to like Michigan, these polling places and stuff at late night. Are we going to have a repeat of 2020? Absolutely not this time. Because this time, the Republican side of things were like, no, we're staying here. We're not going home. We're going to make sure all of the votes are counted properly. And this time, the votes came in, and not only did Trump overperform, but he earned the mandate because he won in a landslide. He had over 300 electoral votes. He won the popular vote, so they couldn't try to use that as a crutch of, oh, we need to abolish the electoral college because, even though Trump won the electoral votes, she still got more of the popular. It should be abolished. Not this time. Trump won the popular vote too. And it wasn't an 87 million anomaly number like what Biden got in 20. It was right in line with what voting numbers have been over the last at least 20, 25 years. So he won not only the popular vote, he won not only the Electoral College, but the Republican side of things took the House, took the Senate, and they had the majority, for the most part, at the Supreme Court. So now Trump is able to do a lot more things that he wasn't able to do in 2016 because he didn't have that mandate. Because the country this time around said, you know what? We're tired of your bullshit. We're tired of you trying to gaslight us. We're tired of you trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Unfortunately, there is still way too many of the country that is still asleep and still eating up everything with the spoon and taking everything that the mainstream media, if you can still call them that, and the blue side of things as gospel. But as you see, as time's going on, things are shifting more and more. So much so that in recent polling, the state of California, if the election was held now, there is more than a good chance California could actually flip red. Pausing for effect. California could flip red. And if that's not telling, I don't know what is. Because in my lifetime, I don't think California has ever not been blue. And I'm 45. And I don't think California has ever not been blue on the voting. And now this is how much of a seismic shift we're seeing. Yeah, in the main metropolises like LA and San Diego and I think San Francisco, they're still holding on to that blue nugget as hard as they could, but everybody else around them in the state is flipping red because they understand. And they now, not only because of how disastrous Kamala was, but how disastrous their current governor is, Gavin Newsom, who thankfully for them will not be seeking re-election come 2026 or whenever it is. So they are going to be finally maybe getting a breath of fresh air. But still in all, with all of that being said, you know, Trump has done everything so far that he set out to do. And unlike her and unlike Biden, it wasn't just blowing smoke up the proverbial asses of the country. It's, I know what's best for the country. I know what we need. I love this country. I want it to be back into good graces, not only with, you know, everybody here, but around the world. I want us to have that respect. And that's how, and he's been doing that over the last, you know, 4 months, almost 5 months that he's been in office. And a lot of people, unfortunately, still feel like, because of, and this again has a lot to do with being brainwashed for so many years and being told that he's just a horrible man, and they just believed it, blindly believed it. There's still so many people out there that still feel like he's the worst choice to lead the country, that he's going to take us down into this dictatorship, and that he's never going to leave office and all this other stuff. And it couldn't be further from the truth. But again, like I said, you know, it's something where I don't really give a shit what side it is, red, blue, pink, brown. I don't give a flying, you know what party that person associates themselves with. I want to be able to not have to live fucking paycheck to paycheck anymore. I don't want to have to worry about being able to feed my wife and my son week to week. I want to be able to live in a place where we can have good rent, affordable car payments, gas prices that aren't going to bleed us dry, not having to sell my first kidney for a box of food. And unfortunately for the blue side, they couldn't come up with a person that could do that or had a vision for that. And tying that into what I was just saying, you know, they asked, like, on The View, which is again a show that should never not be on the air anymore, because if you want to find a massive vomiting, spewing ball of hateful rhetoric, The View. Although Kimmel's a close second. That ABC as a whole has gone down massively in flames, but from when I was growing up. But they had Kamala on, and she had the opportunity prior to the election to distance herself from the horrible administration that she was the vice president of and the second person to the throne. Because you remember Biden saying God save the Queen. Why? Anyways, so they asked her, they're like, had you have been in off, or should you get into office, what would be things that you would change? Looking at this now, what would you change from what we've dealt with over the last 4 years? And she flat out on national television came right out, looked in the camera and said, I can't think of anything. She would keep things exactly the same way that they were run from 2020 to 2024. If that doesn't tell you that she has no business being anywhere near high political office, I don't know what does. And the fact that as time has gone on, it's come to light from sources within her camp that she was very, very, very difficult to work for. And I think no more glaring of an example of that being factual is the fact that if you look back to when Biden first took office, how many people left her left her office. Like, she had so many people that were working for her on her team that quit, resigned, walked away. And it was more than pretty much any vice president had ever encountered in such a short span of time. That tells you, if that many people are trying to get away from you that quickly, you're toxic. And there have been stories that have come to light that she was very, very hard to work for, and that behind the scenes, if things weren't going the way she wanted them to, she was a nightmare. And the same also holds true for the last female political candidate that tried to run for office in 2016. And there are books now, there are stories that have come out in recently published books that have said, again, she was very scary. Like when Bill was president, if she was coming into the White House, people had to scatter into offices. They couldn't make eye contact with her. They couldn't directly address her. She was basically, Medusa without the being turned to stone if she caught your gaze. That's how horrible of a person she was and still is. Now, I'm saying these things right now out loud based on all the factual information that has been disseminated amongst social media. I'm covering my butt as I say this, but it's the truth. There's a reason why the country did not want her to be the highest ranking individual running our country. There's a reason why they didn't want her to be the leader of the free world. Just like there was a reason why they didn't want Queen Word Salad to be the leader of the free world in 2024. Because they knew we would be screwed 8 ways to Sunday as a country if she got into power. Luckily, though, that did not happen. So, to me, to anyone that will watch this or listen to this and may come back to me and say, well, you're just a Trump homer, you're a MAGA lover, aren't you? I will come right out now, here and now, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again for a third time, just to make it as crystal clear as possible. I am not a MAGA supporter. I am not a blue supporter. I am a red, white, and blue supporter. I am a supporter that wants our country to be on the best track possible. We need to get back to being the country that everyone wants to come to. We need to get back to the country that everyone, all the other countries, respect and in the background fear because of our leadership, because of our drive, because of our balls to the wall attitude, where we are going to be the leaders. We are going to be the ones that are going to be driving this nation and this world for years to come. And you can either be with us or against us. But either way, we're taking this ball and we're running with it. And we are going to stop being the goddamn world police that sticks our nose into every regional conflict that happens out there. Because I guarantee you, had Trump been in power in 2020 to 2024, the Ukraine-Russia situation either A, wouldn't have happened, or B, we would not have gotten involved the way we did. But again, if you look at Hunter Biden's dealings with the Ukrainian companies and the corruptness of the Biden family syndicate, you now understand why we were shoveling money to them again and again and again and again. And Trump shut that tap off the moment he took office, and rightfully so. And that'll be something that I'll be getting into on a future episode, going into all of that stuff, because I got a lot to say about that. But yeah, I mean, at this point, guys, I want to wrap this up for the week. I want to get this out, and because I really feel like I've given you guys a good overview, not only of what this show is going to be about, but some of my opinions and feelings with not only the shape of the world, but from the political landscape as a whole. And again, this is going to be an unfiltered, uncensored, unapologetic, unscripted weekly podcast. It's called No Filter Friday for a reason. We got no filter here, guys. And I want you guys to join me on this venture. And as we start talking about things more and more in different topics, I'm going to bring in people and find people that want to talk too, that want to get their opinions off of their chest, that aren't going to be afraid to speak their minds. Because this is a spot where you can say what you want, and you can let your opinions fly left and right and be proud of your standing and how you feel about things. And that's what I want to get to on this show. So I want you guys to help drive the show, help me make this as interactive as possible, because that's what this needs to be. And I have plenty to spout about, guys. I'm very long-winded, as I've told you on the Smorgasbord episodes. I'm very long-winded. I'm very opinionated. I got a lot to talk about and a lot of topics to cover. And the way the world continues to change, we're going to always have plenty to speak about week to week. But for now, we're going to be releasing these again. No Filter Friday means we're going to keep these rolling out every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Central, the way we always have been. That's not changing. The social media handles and everything is changing. As you can see behind me, the new logo, which I like, because it encapsulates exactly what this podcast is as a whole. The new social media handle for me will be NFF Pod. That is N. That's going to be for those of you who were in the military, such as I was, the veteran. It's going to be November Foxtrot Papa Oscar Delta. NFF POD. That is the social media handle. It's a lot easier than Smorgasbord JK for you guys to remember. So you're welcome. But for now, we're going to sign off here. We're going to come back next week with some more topics. Again, if you guys want to help me fuel those topics, let me know what you want me to talk about. Let me know what you want me to rant about. If you want to come on and speak your mind about any topic you want for 45 minutes to an hour, let me know. I'm more than happy to bring people on who just want to vent, who just want to give their opinions, who just want to talk about whatever is just on their mind at the time. Again, this is what the podcast is about. That's why it's called No Filter Friday, because we don't hold back here. So again, reach out to me on all social media platforms at NFFPOD. November Foxtrot Papa Oscar Delta. Reach out to me, NFFPOD. And we will be back next Friday for another episode of the new podcast, coined, known, named as No Filter Friday. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, it is my opinions, and these are all my opinions and mine alone. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope this is going to be as fun for a ride for you guys as it is for me. But for now, I'm going to sign off here in just a moment. I'm going to get it up to as close to 50 minutes as possible, because I like, another thing you'll find out about me, I'm very anal when it comes to ending numbers. Like when I pump gas, I always have to end it with a quarter or at 50 cents or on the dollar. So I like ending my shows and things on an even number. Like we're at 49 minutes and a couple seconds right now. I want to get to 50 minutes. But for now, NFFPOD. Reach out to me on all social media platforms, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok eventually. We're going to be loading this up on YouTube, and I'm going to be rolling out clips here throughout the week before the debut of the episode on Friday afternoon, 5 p.m. Central, same bat time, same bat channel. And again, on all podcast feeds, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Amazon, a bunch of other ones. I'm using Podbean. I'm going to start using Podbean for my hosting. So we're going to have a bunch of podcast feeds on there as well. But for now, this is John Kanopic. I bid you guys adieu. Have a great week. We'll see you guys next week on another episode of No Filter Friday. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, take my advice. Pull down your pants, slide on the ice. Have a good week. We'll see you guys soon.